Online at bmwatlanticcity.com. Offers expire October 31st. For more details, call 609-316-2393.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Burrow in the gun. Chase in motion. Burrow back. He tries to swing it out to Chase, and he's brought down for a loss by DeJean. DeJean went into the backfield, and the Eagles take over on downs.
Oh, my. What a play by the rookie, Cooper DeJean.
Cooper DeJean, who everything seems to have changed since they inserted him into the lineup, making an incredible play. I always say the play starts when the motion starts. You got Jamar Chase one-on-one in a fourth down situation in a game where if you get a stop, it flips the thing completely. And DeJean, it was like he's covering a pivot route before the play even starts. And then he's knifing to the flat and a very short tackle. This kid's going to be very good for the Eagles.
That was Chris Long on the Green Light Podcast. The play of the game for me is Cooper DeJean. That's a play right there that flips the game. It gives the Eagles the ball back. They get a field goal. They go up 2 scores. And here they are with a third straight win. They win on the road in Cincinnati. They'll come home this week and play the Jaguars. It's time for Mike Mcgarry from the Press of Atlantic City and PressOfAC.com here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN as we get a look at how this game went down, what it means, and more. And, Mike, that play right there, Cooper DeJean, that's a play that is a tough one. I mean, he's one-on-one on an island with Jamar Chase, one of the premier players in this league, and he is able to go out there and make that play. I guess that the question becomes is, are we starting to feel that this defense with these young players are now starting to feel more comfortable in this scheme and system?
Well, it certainly seems to be trending in that direction, right? We said, 2 weeks ago after they came into MetLife and shut down the Giants and looked very impressive about that, we said, well, is that the Eagles' defense or is that the Giants' ineptitude? Going out to Cincinnati with the weapons that they have and being able to shut them down and put in another impressive performance certainly bodes well for the Eagles, and certainly they are trending in the right direction defensively.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we look at that game yesterday more as a defense? We look more in the takeaway is the offense? Or do we look at this more and say, no, it's just a complete game?
Yeah, to me, the biggest takeaway from the game for me was the play of Jalen Hurts. I thought we saw the Jalen Hurts that we saw a lot back, the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, 2022. He looked like that guy, couple of big runs, no turnovers, a big pass to Devontae Smith. To me, what I take away most from that game is that the quarterback finally looked like the quarterback that the Eagles were getting back in 2022. I thought he played really well and kind of sparked the entire team.
Mike Mcgarry from the Press of Atlantic City, PressOfAC.com. Eagles win. You mentioned Hurts. I thought he played maybe the most impactful game that he has played, both with his legs and his throws and the decision-making. He did a great job there, getting Smith involved. Brown had some key plays. Calcaterra had some catches. And it was a game, Mike, where last week we're saying, where's this offense without Saquon Barkley? And yesterday wasn't really a big Saquon Barkley game.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to, sort of spread it around, use different weapons, and that makes them so difficult. Now, Barkley still had a big day. He still ran for more than 100 yards. But when the whole thing doesn't have to be about Barkley, the Eagles are that much better. The other thing that impressed me about the game is, Cincinnati comes out. They put together that 10-minute drive. The Eagles don't score in the first quarter. It could have been that narrative again. What's wrong with the offense? They can't score. Why do they always get off the slow starts? What's the deal? We're down 7-0 here. And instead, the Eagles sort of flip the narrative. They really dominate the final 3 quarters, dominate the second half. And look, the NFL is a week-to-week league. You go week to week. You make week-to-week judgments every Monday. And right now, the Eagles at 5-2 with Jacksonville coming to town next weekend and an NFC that's really wide open. Things looking good for the Eagles.
Yeah, that's the thing there is, this team, we keep asking, they feel like a 4-2 team. You see 5-2. All of a sudden, do we change the narrative of what this team's ceiling is?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look around the rest of the NFC, right? The NFC West, Everybody seems to be 4-4 out there. Yeah, Detroit is 6-1. They look impressive, but anything can happen in a game. I think the other thing you take away from yesterday is the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. Every week the Commanders show that they just might be for real, and Jaden Daniels might just be for real. So if you're an Eagles fan, you might want to get those NFC titles now before Jaden Daniels is in the league too long.
That's a good point there, Mike. And by the way, I said it didn't feel like a Saquon Barkley game. He still had 22 carries for over 100 yards, but he just didn't have that big breakaway one that you've been kind of almost relying on the last couple of weeks, where he gets that 40-yarder, that 60-yarder. He just kind of had 5 yards here, 3 yards there. But, hey, that's what this offense can be really good at, is having the threat of Barkley, then having the threat of Smith. It was one of the more complete offensive showings there. And I guess I'll ask, this Bengals team, this is not, are they a great team? No, I think they've been disappointing. But this doesn't make you feel like you did after a Cleveland or a Giant game.
Yeah, the Bengals to me are a team that is kind of struggling, but still that was that's what makes, and it's easy, right, to say, okay, the Bengals aren't what they were in the past. The Eagles just went in there and did what they had to do. But I'm even more impressed by that because that was really kind of a desperation. That was a kitchen sink game for the Bengals. They lose yesterday. They're in a lot of trouble right now. So they are at home. I think they've lost 3 or 4 games at home already this season. That was a must-win for the Bengals yesterday. And for the Eagles to go in there and do what they have to do. Again, we make week-to-week judgments every Monday, right? Next week, if the Eagles fall on their face against Jacksonville, we'll have a different conversation.
Yep.
But right now, hey, when I look around the rest of the NFC East and the rest of the NFC, I look at the Eagles and say, hey, this team's 5-2. They're a drop pass away from being 6-1. Yeah, Detroit might be better than everybody else in the NFC, but everybody else in the NFC, the Eagles are probably right there with them.
Well, and that's the thing. Last week, I think we were having the conversation. The Eagles were not a playoff team. If the playoffs were to start, they were not in the field. So that's how competitive this NFC is and how meaningful to get a road win. Because, Mike, they've only played 2 home games in Philadelphia, which means they are backloaded with home games here. And it looks like it's going to be a very competitive NFC field just to even be a wild card team. That Washington-Philadelphia game, Amazon Prime is getting that on a Thursday night in a couple of weeks. They got to be doing backflips at the way this is setting up right now.
Absolutely. Mike, we talked about Jaden Daniels earlier, and you talked about the Hail Maryland or whatever they're calling the play or whatever they want to call it. But you watch Jaden Daniels play, and I'm amazed at how he's able to slow the game down. The game looks even slower when he's quarterbacking on TV. You're watching on TV, you're like, oh, he's looking right, he's looking left, now he's coming back right. Oh, he's stepping up in the pocket. Oh, now he's going to take off. The game seems, compared to watching Daniel Jones on TV, which is like watching, a frenetic person just throw the ball all over the place. You watch Jaden Daniels play through the TV, the game seems to slow down when he's quarterbacking. So, the Commanders are certainly, impressive. That was a big win for them yesterday. And like I said, I think, like you said, Amazon Prime, Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, they got to be doing backflips to get Eagles Commanders on their network.
Yeah, that's in a couple of weeks. It'll be the Eagles in Washington on a Thursday night, and that could be shaping up as one of the better games here. The other thing is, Mike, you just said it. It's so week to week. And one of the things with the Eagles that I think, they were kind of struggling along is you got rookie players in some key spots, and they're trying to learn on the fly. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, and to some extent Nakobe Dean, who did not play last year with an injury. Some of these younger players for them are starting to be the guys that we're talking about on Mondays.
Yeah, it just takes time, right? And maybe we're all guilty of expecting guys to come in right away and dominate. You mentioned one of the Georgia guys there. Maybe we expected too much of the Georgia guys. Maybe there is a period of adjustment. Those guys up front certainly seem to be playing a lot more consistent now. They're putting more pressure on the quarterback. Maybe it just takes time. And, in today's world, as a sports fan, we want everything done now. Maybe it just takes time for these young guys to get in there and find their way and get the reps they need. And certainly if you go off the past couple of weeks, the Eagles defense trending in the right direction. And the reason they're trending in the right direction is those young guys are making plays now.
No doubt about it. And, by the way, they win the game yesterday offensively with Mailata out and Mekhi Becton. So 2 offensive line starters are down. We tend to forget about that sometimes. We just always take for granted that the Eagles' offensive line is going to figure out a way. But we see so many teams. Look at the Jets. We always say, look, the Jets have Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers, and they stink because the line is so bad there is one of the reasons why they stink. Their defense is probably a tad overrated, but you see what the offensive line means to – it's really the difference between good and bad teams in this league.
Absolutely, Mike. I was just about to say you'll watch it tonight. Tonight's an action-packed sports night. You got World Series, everything. But if you turn on the TV and you watch the Giants-Steelers, to me, the number one reason why the Giants have struggled since they won the Super Bowl in 2011-12, the reason they've had a decade of frustration is their offensive line has been poor. No matter what they do, no matter who they draft, no matter who they sign, they can't seem to get the offensive line right. And if you can't protect the quarterback or block the running backs or give people time to perform, you are not going to win in the NFL. And I think you've seen it with the Eagles' success of the offensive line. And conversely, you look at the Giants' struggles, which you'll see tonight. I don't even want to know how their offensive line is going to perform against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
What are you going, World Series or football tonight?
You got to go World Series. Mike, I'm going World Series, right? That's the number one priority, right? Number one. And then I'm actually going Knicks-Cavs 7:30. So I'll go Knicks-Cavs 2. And then the Giants possibly number 3 on the TV. And I might slip in a little Celtics-Milwaukee Bucks before Giants-Steelers also.
All right, big sports night, big sports weekend, a lot of fun. Eagles win, Cowboys lose, Washington. I don't know. What do you take for the Washington? Do you say, man, they needed a Hail Mary to beat the Bears, or do we feel confident enough that Washington is for real 8 weeks in?
I think you got to put them down as for real just by the math, right? They're 6-2, 8 weeks in. What, they got 9 games left? I mean, if they go 4-5, that's 10 wins right there, which might be enough to get you a playoff spot. I like the way I think their defense is improving, and I also like the way they beat Carolina 2 weeks ago. I know Carolina stinks, but for them to come in when Daniels goes out of the game with Mariota at quarterback and not miss a beat there, that tells me that the team is more than just Jaden Daniels. So I think the Commanders are for real. Like I said, at 6-2, they go 4-5 the rest of the way. That's 10 wins.
Who's the bigger bonehead yesterday? The Bears guy celebrating before the game ends, or Anthony Richardson asking out of the game?
I think you got to go with the Bear guy turning to the crowd and all of a sudden looking over his shoulder and saying, "Uh-oh, the play's coming my way," basically.
Mike, if he would have just stayed out of the play, they probably win the game. He's the one that tipped the ball.
Exactly. If he had kept talking to the crowd, they would have won.
Unbelievable.
But not only does he do that, but then he goes in and kind of wrecks the whole play. And, that's a tough look for number 29 on the Bears there, basically. That's
all right, Mike Mcgarry for the
film session for him, basically, today.
Yeah, man, I can't imagine what kind of day that would be in there. All right, Mike Mcgarry for the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Busy weekend, and, of course, more is coming as we're about halfway through the NFL season already. We're going to week number 9 of 18
Amazing how
weeks.
fast it goes.
It does, man. And I know the high school football season, the playoff pairings are out. You got that happening in your world as well. You got the Sixers underway. The Flyers are underway. The World Series is here. The college football season is coming down the stretch. College basketball starts next week. It's a great time to be in our industry. Mike, I appreciate you as always, pal.
All right, we'll see you down the road. Thank you.